New cases of COVID-19 confirmed in Muskoka. Mayor GRAYDON Smith tightens messaging on staying home. And music to your ears without ever having to leave home. All that and more coming up right now. Welcome to Cogeco News for April 2nd. I'm James Bowler with what's happening in your community. And before we get started, just a positive news story, an update to a story we told you yesterday about the Pines in Bracebridge. We had 4 patients there that were believed to have a respiratory illness. A 5th one had also been believed to have a respiratory illness as well. We just received word from the district. All 5 patients have tested negative for COVID-19. That means that Pines currently does not have a spread of COVID-19 at this point. And to our top story, new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in Muskoka.
We have 2 individuals that are in Muskoka. The other individuals are in communities in Simcoe County. I've already spoken to the predominance of community acquisition. If you look at our epidemiological curve, perhaps we're starting to see the upward rise. Certainly having 9 cases come in over the last 24 hours is noteworthy. That's the most we've had come in one day, and it is at this time that we're expecting the rise in cases, the surge of cases due to community transmission. This is the point at which we most definitely need to be exercising our precaution about transmission, about keeping our distance from people, to avoid becoming cases ourselves, avoid transmitting to other people, but we will indeed continue to see a rise. Our objective is to flatten that curve as much as possible so that it is manageable and doesn't overwhelm the healthcare system, but we do expect to see a rise over the weeks to come, and we do expect this situation to transpire over months to come. So I think people need to think in terms of the importance of being able to do this over a long period of time, being able to manage this situation over a long period of time.
And the stark warning from Dr. Gardner about the lasting effect of this virus is being echoed by Premier Doug Ford, who says he'll be openly sharing all data on health in Ontario starting tomorrow.
Over the next little while, we will all have to make some very, very difficult decisions. And you deserve the same information I have. You deserve to see the same data that I see when I'm making decisions. You deserve to know what I know when you're making decisions for yourself, your family, and your community. And that is why I've asked our medical experts to provide a full briefing to the public on where this could go. We'll walk through Ontario's story. Tomorrow, our top doctors will provide an update on where Ontario was, on where Ontario is, and where Ontario could be.
And joining me now from his home office is Mayor GRAYDON Smith. GRAYDON, thank you very much for taking the time once again.
My pleasure.
So we're going to be talking about some of the updates that came from you this week from the province. You did do a bit of a social update yesterday, and taking once again, as I see, and I think is very well said, a harder tone on the social distancing and the sort of unrequired trips outside. So just tell me a bit about that messaging you were putting across again.
Yeah, there's too many trips that people are taking that they don't need to be taking or shouldn't be taking. So we know that a lot of people have returned from vacations, whether it was March break or snowbirds or what have you. And I'm getting reports, constantly that people are out of their homes, people are at the grocery store. People know when you're away and they know when you come back. And they especially know when you say to the cashier at the grocery store, yeah, I was just in Florida. It's just common sense at this point. And people need to be looking out for themselves and for others. And if we want to be the great community that we are, we need to be doing what public health officials have been telling us to do, which is self-isolate 14 days. There are no exceptions. And if people need help, I think there are ways for them to get that help, get those groceries, get those medications. So there's really no excuses.
Now, Doug Ford recently said earlier today that he was going to be releasing medical, health details on the COVID-19 situation in Ontario, basically opening the door to all the information, and I'm guessing trying to get more of a harder message out to people as well. I'm just wondering what you might be hoping to see in terms of changes to protocols moving forward from the province after that.
Well, I think there's a lot of tools left in the provincial toolbox in terms of restriction of movement, except to say that there's a stay-at-home order in force. And I don't know if I'm looking forward to seeing that. I guess in my heart of hearts, I'm hoping that the information that comes out tomorrow will say that we've all been doing a better job than maybe my anecdotal reports would suggest, and that the curve is nice and flat and we'll be getting back to regular life sometime soon. But I don't really think that will be the case. I mean, he's kind of sent a flare out that this is going to be a fairly grim report tomorrow that's going to suggest we need to do more, not less, and that also the list of essential businesses may get significantly curtailed as well. I had a call today, just moments before joining you, that a person that lives on Taylor Road, which is one of the main thoroughfares into Bracebridge, is seeing as much traffic as if it were a regular day. How can that be if people are only making essential trips and it's essential business only? So, I think there's a ways for us to go as a community, and I think we're going to see something harsher from the province eventually.
GRAYDON, just slipping away from the COVID-19 news for a fresh break, at least at this point. We've had some details on flood funding from last year's flooding damage. So tell me a bit about that.
Well, I don't want to say it's a pleasure to talk about flooding, but honestly, with all the COVID news these days, it's a bit of a change of a topic, as you say. We were very pleased to get funding from the provincial government. I got a call from Minister Clark on Sunday indicating that they would be providing $2.3 million of funding to Bracebridge for claims that we submitted under the Municipal Disaster Assistance Program and later in 2019. And that's incredibly important for us. As everyone knows by now, we had a significant event with a significant amount of, sorry, my cat just walked by, with a significant amount of damage in our community. And to build all that infrastructure back to where it was, and in some cases build it back better with a provincial pilot that also provided funding. We're again appreciative, and we'll be getting to work on that and doing that work over the next couple of years.
All right. Well, GRAYDON, we'll let you get back to your cat. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
The cat knows no boundaries. Thank you.
We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Joining me from his home is Mark MISKO with the District of Muskoka. Mark, thank you very much for taking the time today.
No problem.
So, Mark, we're going to be talking about the King William project, which is still slated to be going ahead at some point here? Because, you know, despite all the pandemic stuff, we still need roads and we still need infrastructure. So, Mark, I understand there was a meeting this week on that project. So can you tell me what the updates from that are and where we stand on that?
Sure. We've been talking to the contractor, JB Enterprises, recently, just before the whole COVID-19 issue arose, just about start dates and when they were going to start construction, trying to dial in on schedule and what that would look like for the rest of the summer. That's obviously changed significantly in the past few weeks. So we're starting to open dialogue with them, I'd say over the past week or 2 weeks, just about what their construction is going to look like. This is kind of an industry-wide issue or concern right now with respect to worker safety, which is obviously number one, and just how construction jobs will, if or will be able to set up in a safe manner while we're under the current situation. So those discussions are kind of ongoing. We don't at this point have a hard start date as to when they'll be on site. We're trying to figure out when they do come on site, what does that look like as far as, you know, we want to maintain things like separation or public safety as well while they're doing the work. So a lot of those are still in play, a lot up in the air, and a lot of moving pieces at this point.
So before all this came up, what was the original plan to start construction?
We originally, when we first started discussing with the contractor on start dates, it was going to be the first or second week of April. And that was weather pending. And that was the messaging we had out late last year and early this year as well, was to get out as soon as we can out of the gate and get back working again. So some of the discussions we had, like I said, up to 3 weeks ago even, we're looking at early April. The weather's starting to look good, starting to look like things are in our favor to move ahead. Let's start talking about getting on site and getting the work done. That's obviously changed with some of the direction we're seeing from some of the industry regulators, I'll say Ministry of Labor, as well as some of the construction associations. So there's a larger look going on right now at kind of the feasibility of construction works. Our plan is to, I guess, to put it simply, is to control the things we can and adapt or respond to the things we can't. So we're looking at things like schedules, what the final scoping is going to be on this job. But as far as dates and timelines, some of that is a bit of out of our control right now, so it's tough to speak to.
So dependent on, obviously this is a fluid situation overall. Dependent on conversations happening right now, is there a possibility we could see work start next week?
We may see some utility work going down the ground to paint out the utility lines. Those guys they essentially work on their own to put the utility markings down. There may be some investigative work done by smaller crews, so 1 or 2 guys on site, but certainly no major operations within the next week or 2 weeks that we're anticipating at this point. We're still really trying to dial in on worker safety and how we can continue to work through this situation. So it's more about prioritizing that and not when they're actually going to be on site to get the work done. It's how do we do it safely once they are there.
So Mark, the big question that's going to be on everyone's mind, and I know this is probably not even on your radar yet, or it might be being discussed, but if this gets pushed back a significant amount of time, is that going to affect the Main Street revitalization project next summer?
There's always the potential for that. It's tough to say yes or no to this at that point. I can let you know with respect to the Main Street work, the design is still underway. A lot of this is office work that, people are working from home. So that kind of stuff is still feasible. So we're talking to the design consultant on a regular basis at this point. I know there's been some discussion at Huntsville Council regarding timing and capital projects. To be honest, we'll really just have to see how that kind of, where that discussion goes and what kind of direction we get as far as timelines go on the Main Street job.
Just swinging back around, Mark, to King William again. If and when that does start, I believe there was some discussion that the roads would stay open at this point. Is that true? Are we going to see a funneling of traffic again, or are we going to mostly see kind of an open roadway?
Sorry, are you talking for the King William or for the Main Street?
For the King William, yeah.
King William, we got the initial plan from the contractor on what their staging would look like. There were some localized closures, but the intent is to get as much through traffic as possible in that area, knowing how busy it is. I'd love to be in there now, to be honest, because it's probably pretty quiet. But with that said, we do want to maintain what I'll call porosity to all the side businesses. So that's still high on the list, is to maintain the accessibility through the area. Like I said, though, we're still just scoping how do we work this job under the current situation, because no one knows how long this is going to last at this point. So we're kind of rethinking some of the approach on the job.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
All right, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Well, the Parry Sound Rotary Club is ensuring that those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic have access to food by making home deliveries or offering curbside pickup.
We are helping people get their groceries, be it the shut-ins that are at risk. So the people who are the high-risk categories, frail, or people who need, they're in high risk. They may not be frail, but they're at high risk because they have diabetes, for example, may need it much longer. So there's probably two very distinct categories. A third category that we're servicing are people that are in the healthcare industry who don't want to either take the germs from where they work into the grocery store, or they don't want to take the germs that are in the grocery store to their patients. So we're servicing that group too. They can either come to the curb or we can deliver to their homes the groceries, generally for 1 week, sometimes 2 weeks. And you fill out a simple form. You add your groceries right there and then, and Sobeys will call you for the credit card and you pick it up the next day at 9 a.m. or we deliver it somewhere between 9 10 a.m. We will go up and we put the groceries on the doorstep, we ring the bell, we wave, and we walk away. At the curbside, the people come up and they talk to us, and then we go get their groceries. We push a grocery cart to them. They get out and put it in the car. We don't touch them or the car. We wash the grocery cart and then we put it way down there so that it doesn't get used right away, 24, 48 hours, even though we've washed it. It's almost like you stay on your side of the road and I stay on my side of the road and we all stay safe, right? That's what the social distancing is if we keep that distance apart, then we don't provide germs to each other. We have just wonderful, wonderful volunteers that show up every day and just are gung-ho, and they're almost disappointed when the orders are all served. So we've got a really great group of volunteers, and I'd like to thank one and all of them.
We're back to the break, but stay tuned for details on how you can get a special front row seat to a concert happening in Muskoka tonight. Welcome back. And like all walks of life, the arts community is feeling the impacts of this global pandemic. Our own Scott Acton reports musicians used to gigging every weekend in a local watering hole are feeling the pinch.
We've all been enjoying online concerts by some of our favorite musicians over the last couple of weeks. Although these shows have given us at home some entertainment, the reality is it's a tough time to be a musician anywhere, including Muskoka.
Everybody's journey with this is different. I mean, and being musicians, no musician's experience is the same. So I think we're all kind of having our independent journey through it. I mean, I know acts that are canceling European tours, dealing with airlines and losing $5,000 worth of flight purchases, like right down to people like myself who basically, I mean, everything's canceled until further notice. So I don't even know when I'll be getting back to doing any shows at all.
Now, one local organization that is well known in this community for always supporting the arts is stepping up again.
Well, we're working with Lake of Bays Brewery to sort of rekindle some live music out here in Muskoka, and unfortunately, none of the musicians can, perform anywhere at local venues, and our stage here at the station is closed. So we wondered how could we recreate that, and working with Lake of Bays Brewery, we decided that we would create a series of virtual concerts that are broadcast over our Facebook page from each individual musician's home. And we have 2 shows a week scheduled right through the month of April.
And you can get that full schedule of shows by visiting the Hunters Bay Radio website. Now, as for Sean Cotton, who will perform tonight, he says being stuck at home has had its perks.
The new pressure on my life is how many of the great ideas I have am I going to find time to do? And I know other artists have expressed this online as well, just being kind of overwhelmed with the possibility that this kind of time provides for you. I'm starting to work actually on some instrumental music, trying to go a little bit of a different angle. I know that for streaming purposes, a lot of instrumental playlists are becoming very popular. So I'm going to try and take my hand at that and try and have it not be about me all the time, and maybe just have the music kind of speak for itself out there in the world. So I've been composing a few pieces, and I'll definitely be doing that during the break. I may even get into my new record as well. We'll see what happens. But I've got a lot of drywalling that I got to do around the house, and fix the door in 5 minutes that sat around broken for 5 years or 3 years. So. So a lot of things are happening during this downtime.
In Huntsville, Scott Acton, Cogeco News.
We're taking our last break, but when we come back, a recap of today's headlines. Welcome back. Let's take a look at what made headlines today in Muskoka. 2 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed, a woman in Huntsville and a woman in Muskoka Lakes. The Huntsville case was caused by community transmission, which is the first official community transmission case discovered in Muskoka. The second is still under investigation. The King William reconstruction could be held up by COVID-19 as the District of Muskoka works hard to figure out how to get shovels in the ground without causing health concerns for workers. As well, Mayor GRAYDON Smith is sending out a solid message: stay home if you don't need to be out. And you can get a front row seat in your own home to some great music in Muskoka twice a week, thanks to Hunters Bay Radio. And that's the end of Cogeco News this week. And you can keep up to date with all the COVID-19 updates on our Facebook page, YourTV Muskoka, or on our website, yourtv.tv. Don't forget to catch us live on Channel 700 and online through our Facebook page on yourtv.tv. From all of us here, thanks for watching YourTV Muskoka, YourTV, and Cogeco News.